the advantage of engaging European companies is they tend to be more willing to engage with institutional investors. Here again, you find similar challenges about they want to talk about the policy, but when you get down into the practice and get into the weeds, there's still reticence, but not as much, and they're far more conversant when it comes to things like international humanitarian and human rights law, because their home states have integrated those laws into their own legal and regulatory framework. The disadvantage in Europe is it's a far more complicated process to file a shareholder resolution. The requirements for how many shares that you own of the particular company is higher. The duration that you've held those shares is higher. There's more of a requirement around a coalition of investors, or rather the threshold for how many shares you hold really dictates that you bring in a broader number of shareholders. So it's just a more complicated process from a threshold perspective than in the United States. What we were able to do, and it was a first for us and a first for Wespath, was to file a counter motion at HeidelbergCement after that engagement, the dialogue had broken down. And we were fortunate enough to work with German colleagues who are, from Ethical Shareholder Association, who helped us shepherd us through that process. And what it did, which we had hoped for, is that it encouraged the company to come back to the table and resume those conversations, which was useful because since that engagement, the company has hired a dedicated human rights program officer who has significant experience in the field of business and human rights. They are taking very seriously their reporting requirements under the German Supply Chain Act, and they're becoming increasingly comfortable talking to us about the details because the German Supply Chain Act is requiring that sort of disclosure. So if we had not taken that course, that dialogue would have broken down with very little opportunity to exchange. And so it was a complicated process, but it was a worthwhile process.